In this video, we're going to be focusing on how you can group your data in Excel, and also you're going to want to stay to the end where we're going to be showing you a trick using Subtotal where you don't actually need to enter the formulas, you can just use some functionality Excel has built into it. Hello everyone and welcome back to a new video. So in this video we're going to look at how you can group your data in an existing table, as you can see we've got in our example, and also at the end of this video we're going to look at a tip that we can use using the same functionality we'll be touching on in a minute to automatically have Excel put in subtotals for us. So grouping data, you might want to do this because either presentation wise or if you're sharing the data with other colleagues or friends, and also especially in scenarios where you've got a lot of columns that you want to condense down. So example of this could be location information, so if it's quite extensive. So whereas for us we've just got a country and city, if in your location information you had maybe a region, a state, country, city, address, postcode, so quite a number of columns, or could be built out to be quite a number of columns, this is where you might want to use this grouping feature. So for us, we haven't got all these extensive columns, but hopefully the example we have here will prove enough to show you how you can use it. So when it comes to grouping data, you have the option to do it either by grouping rows or grouping columns. So the first one we'll look at is grouping columns. So say if we wanted to group the two of these together, so country and city, column A and B, all we'd need to do is select the two columns, go to our data tab in our ribbon at the top of the screen, and you can see over the right hand side on our screen, but it may be slightly different to you depending on what version of Excel you're using, you can see we have this option over here. So we've got group, ungroup and subtotal. The one we want though is just to use the group button, and all we need to do is click that group button, and you can see we now have this option available, or not option available to us, but you can see that there's been a slight amendment to the screen, and that amendment has been this top part here. What gives us this button where we can either have it expanded as it is by default, or we can select that button and it's going to absorb or group and hide all of that information within those two columns. So this is a great way, like we said, if you need to condense down the data to give you a different view of the information. One thing you need to just remember is when you hiding information, obviously the two or the multiple columns that you have highlighted will be hidden when that selection is made, and it will be the next available column to the right that will be visible. So maybe if you had a couple of different fields, so maybe if we just quickly go back and ungroup these two. So what a better use might be for this is to say, okay, we'll keep country, but we don't need city. Therefore, you could group city. And that just means that you could reduce that down so that you could see country, you could then see the day, but if you did want to see city, you've got it available there. It's just another useful way of hiding columns, but then still keeping it quite clear to the user that there is something hidden. Because obviously when you hide columns and other individuals aren't aware that columns are hidden, it can sometimes be overlooked, or things can be, like I say, overlooked or missed when someone's reviewing data, whereas this way it allows you to clearly see that there's something is hidden there and to expand it if needs be. So what we can do is that, as you probably saw still on the screen there, if you then decide you don't want to have that information grouped, all you need to go is navigate back to the data tab and then click the ungroup option. And as you can see here, we haven't got anything selected, so I just need to make sure I've got the columns selected that we want to ungroup before hitting ungroup. It might be worth just touching on, if I group those again, so the two buttons that you have here. So if you click number one, it's just going to condense everything. If you click number two, it's going to expand everything. So if you had multiple options, so let's say we also group column D and E. So you can see at the moment everything is expanded. If we wanted to just collapse everything, and by collapse I mean hide those that have been grouped, all you need to do is click number one and everything will be collapsed. If you want to expand, number two, and everything will be expanded. Or obviously you can do it individually by the information you have there. And what we can just do again, highlight all those, ungroup, and you can see everything has been ungrouped. And what I might need to do is just unhide them so that I've got them back there as well. So that was obviously looking at columns. The other benefit we have is doing it by rows. So what this means is if we wanted to condense all this information here, so Cambridge, let's say we want to condense all that, we could just group Cambridge, and then obviously we can hide Cambridge as well. So that works as a good way of doing that on the row level as well. And as obviously you can then separate each section that you require to hide it. What the benefit of doing it on rows is particularly, and I was going to just take this, ungroup those now, is what you could do is if you had a subtotal in this row here, so let's say we'll call this total, let's go United Kingdom, because obviously that's the country, and we'll call this row total Cambridge. And then what we could do is we could just enter a little sum into here just to get the total number of sales, the sales total, and then maybe we'll get an average in here, what will show us the average numbers or average sales, just like that. And let's just copy some formatting, bear with me. Cool, there you go. So the benefit we can use now with grouping is, say we've got this total Cambridge row here. So we've got this information, it's great, but maybe we don't want to have Cambridge and then all the information there as well. So what we can do is if we select everything for Cambridge except for that total Cambridge, and now go into our data tab and go group, you can see that everything has now been grouped. So what happens if we collapse this is you will just see that one row there for Cambridge. So total Cambridge is 41 sales, £1,200 revenue, and an average sale of 31.46. Great. So if we want to expand that and go into more detail, then obviously you can expand that and then you'll see everything for Cambridge. And you can repeat this step for all of the other locations that we have available to us. So this proves then obviously very useful. So it kind of turns your data into a very basic pivot table almost. Obviously not as great a functionality as a pivot table, but it's just another quick way that you can move your data in a different format. This is a particularly good way to do it if you're doing subtotals. If you're sharing information with individuals who might not be as technically savvy with Excel as you are, but just gives them a real easy way of having that subtotal level and then obviously the underlying data if they want to expand and drill down into that. Cool, so you could obviously do that for all the other locations, but I'm just going to ungroup this now and I'm just going to remove that total Cambridge row as well. So we're back to our data where it starts. So now we come on to our top tip, what we mentioned at the beginning of the video for using subtotals. So if you've seen our previous video on subtotal, you'll obviously be completely clued up on how to use that function. If you haven't, you might well go check that video out now. It's a really useful video on obviously the different functions we have available with using that function. So you could do subtotal of averages, you could find the min, the max, and just a total sum or counts, whatever you require is pretty much covered with that function. But say you've got this data and you want to do what we just now done and have those subtotals in there. What you're able to do is if you just select all of your data, so you can see I'm just going there, United States, perfect. What you can do is just select all of those rows, go back to the data tab, and now go back to this third option we briefly touched on earlier for subtotal. So as you can see from the prompt, it will quickly calculate rows of related data by inserting subtotals and totals. So if we click that, we're just going to get a little prompt here because it says found row. Okay, so this is just referring to the header of our column, so column labels. Usually this is cool. So yeah, just a note, in future when you do this, when you select all your rows, also just include row number 1, what's got the headers in there, and you won't get this message. But if you do get it, all you've got to do is do yes, and it will include the header into your data. As you can see, it's just now updated our selection. So you'll get this prompt, and as you can see here, it says that each change in, and we'll say city, or put day, in city. So what this means is it's going to go down column B, and every time there's a change in city, so obviously we can see the change in row 7, so obviously where it changed to Edinburgh, what the form is going to do is going to put a subtotal in between row 6 and 7 to show the subtotal between the two different cities. So again, just one thing just to note here, you probably want to make sure that your whatever field you wanted to use, whether it's city like this, is all in an alphabetical order or sorted so that they're all grouped together prior to doing this. So we want to do that at city. And we can see we've got a selection of different functions available. Well, we can just use sum because we just want to do our summary on sales total. So what we're going to do is do that to, and we're going to do that on a couple of fields. So this is where you can select the fields you want to apply a subtotal to. So for us, what we're going to do is we're going to add the function sum to number of sales and sales total. We've got a couple of options here. So it says replace current subtotals, just have that ticked on. We've got no subtotals there, but it's probably good practice to have it there in case you have got anything you need to be replaced. And lastly, summary below data. So this just means that the summary of the subtotal is going to come below that data rather than above it. Once you've got that selected, and we've gone for the two fields as you say, but as we mentioned, but you could just do one if you needed to. And obviously when you're using the sum function, you've got to make sure that it's on numbers. So if you're trying to do the sum function on column C, it wouldn't work because there's no numbers to actually sum together. Once those selections are made, all you need to do is hit OK. It'll think about it, and there you go. You can see that after each city row, we've got a subtotal now added in for us. So if we were to scroll down to the bottom of our data, you can also see we've now got a grand total. So this is where it becomes useful to know these numbers here. So if we click number 1, we can see all our data has been collapsed so that it just gives us that grand total overall. If we want to go down to the next level, we can push number 2, and what we can see is we've got our grand total overall, but then we've also got our subtotals. So you can see for each city we've got the city total. And if you wanted to go down lower than that, you could obviously select another one, just use from number 2 there, to expand, obviously to see what those lower level detail is, or you can collapse it again so you're back to that level. And lastly, one to touch on is if you want to expand everything back to where it was, just push number 3 and you can see it's all expanded, so you can see all that detail there readily available. So we hope you enjoyed that video, and it's given you insight to another way you can format your data, whether you were aware of this format functionality before, or if you previously used it and had completely forgot about it. Hopefully this video served as a great reminder of some other ways you can format and use your data in Excel. If you haven't already, please do make sure you subscribe to our channel. It'd be greatly appreciated, and when you do that, hit that bell notification button so you are notified of all of our new videos as soon as they come out onto YouTube. If you enjoyed this video, please give the video a like. It really, one, helps us as a channel, and two, helps us to get confirmation that you are enjoying the video that we've put out and to make more content on that similar path. Thank you very much for watching, and if you've got any questions, do just leave us a comment, or leave us a question, should I say, in the comments below, and check out all the links that we've got in the description for this video. So once again, thank you very much for watching the video, and we shall see you in the next.